What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking the December 26, 2020 edition of Talking Smack from last night's Christmas edition of SmackDown, which, as I'm reading now, did its highest number since the debut show on Fox last October, in October of 2019, which is well-deserved because it was a great show overall. We had 3 title matches, a title change, Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso, a Royal Rumble announcement, and much more. It was a great 2 hours, so it's happy to see. Very, very happy to see the number high up for SmackDown last night. And Talking Smack was also a wonderful show as well, featuring all the fallout from SmackDown last night. We had Charlotte and Asuka as the guests. We had new Intercontinental Champion Big E, as well as Daniel Bryan. And everyone was fantastic. Charlotte Flair pulling double duty this week. I'm not sure if anyone has ever done Raw Talk and Talking Smack in the same week, but she did just that by appearing on Raw Talk on Monday and now Talking Smack on Saturday. So we kick off with Kayla Braxton congratulating Big E on becoming the all-new Intercontinental Champion and saying that she feels that Kevin Owens would have won the championships last night in that Steel Cage Universal Championship match against Roman Reigns had it not been for Jey Uso's involvement, which is pretty accurate. Paul Heyman interjects. He says that Roman Reigns is better than Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens should admit, should realize, should just know for a fact that Roman Reigns is superior to him. So that makes it sound like the feud will continue. I would assume that it will, just because there was interference that cost Kevin Owens the victory. And the last 2 matches have been great. I just don't really know where you go from here, having already done a TLC match and a steel cage match. Maybe you could do another match with Jey Uso stuck in a shark cage or something at the Rumble, very similar to Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens from Royal Rumble 2017, when Chris Jericho was up in the cage, in the shark cage. That didn't prevent Chris Jericho from interfering. It really served no purpose in the end. But I could see that as being maybe where this is going. And that's fine, but the problem with that is that at this point, if Kevin Owens didn't win last night, he's probably not going to win that championship. At least not anytime soon, nor should he. So I would rather he just be in the Rumble, give Goldberg that spot instead. Not that I'm clamoring for Roman versus Goldberg, but I think that'd be the perfect place to do the match, and not at WrestleMania. But nonetheless, the first guest they had on the show is Daniel Bryan. And he outright admits that he's not the best husband of all time. He's not the best husband ever. He's not the greatest father of all time. But he says being in that ring with Jey Uso on SmackDown on Friday night made him feel alive. And he also brings up the fact, which I never knew this to be true before, but he's never won a battle royal before. Whether that be, he said in his entire career, I'm not sure if that's accurate. I didn't really follow his Ring of Honor career too closely or his indie career too closely. Probably in WWE, I don't remember, but the guy's been with the fucking company for a decade, so I would be very surprised if he didn't win a single battle royal. But that's what he said. He said he's never won a battle royal, let alone a Royal Rumble, and he hints at this might be his last chance. Come Royal Rumble in January, this could be his last opportunity to win a Royal Rumble match. And again, as he said earlier, he said he wasn't the best father, he's not the best husband, he's not the best this or that, but he says that when the time comes, if he was to win the Rumble, go on to WrestleMania, and Roman Reigns, provided is still the Universal Champion, that he will prove that he's a better fighter than Roman Reigns, and that he's a better wrestler than Roman Reigns, and that he would beat him at WrestleMania for that Universal Championship. And even if he's not Universal Champion at some point down the line, he's going to beat him anyway. That's what he said to Paul Heyman. This was fucking fantastic. Daniel Bryan is so good in this type of role, and he's been great ever since he came back in October. Some of the matches that he's had with all these various people on TV have been very good. Jey Uso, he's worked with Sami Zayn a few times. They work well together. The guy's been fantastic. Really cool to see him in the spot. We found out, obviously, on SmackDown that he will be in the Royal Rumble. He was the first one announced for the matchup. And as I said in my SmackDown review, this will be the first Royal Rumble match that Bryan has partaken in since Royal Rumble 2015, which, of course, historically was the Rumble that he should have won. The fans wanted him to win. He didn't, and they shat on Roman Reigns instead. So Daniel Bryan going on to win the Rumble this year and going on to face Roman at WrestleMania would be the absolute perfect story. Bryan facing Roman at the Rumble I thought would be perfect enough because it's the same pay-per-view where they had all this history, and that would be great, but it doesn't look like they're going in that direction if Bryan's now in the Rumble match itself. So I'm totally fine with that. If it prevents us from getting Roman and Goldberg at WrestleMania, then I am all fucking for it. I was expecting Big E to maybe be in that spot, but they can always save Big E versus Roman for like SummerSlam. They could give Bryan the belt, or even have Roman retain, and then go on to do Roman and Big E at the SummerSlam pay-per-view or some other point down the road. But regardless, I love this interview from Daniel Bryan. So the next person they had on, or people rather, were Charlotte Flair and Asuka, the all-new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, coming off of last weekend's TLC pay-per-view. Charlotte says that she's the OG Grand Slam champion because while we've had Bayley, Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks, and Asuka, they're all, Grand Slam champions, having won the Raw Women's Championship, SmackDown Women's Championship, Tag Team titles, NXT Women's title. Charlotte has now done all of that and won the Divas Championship. So she was the Divas Champion in addition to doing all those other things and winning the Royal Rumble match. So that's why she says that she is the OG Grand Slam champion. But she admits that she was nervous coming back. She didn't really know where she would fit in. So as opposed to coming back and immediately gunning for that Raw Women's Championship or that SmackDown Women's Championship, she would rather come back and reprove herself by winning the tag team titles first. And it sounded like on Raw this week in her exchange with Asuka that she was going to ask her for a Raw Women's Championship opportunity. She didn't get the chance to before Shayna and Nia interrupted her, but I assume that time is coming, probably maybe WrestleMania, earlier than that. I really hope it's not at Mania and we're not getting Asuka and Charlotte part 35. I mean, they always work well together, but I'm so fucking done with that. I would really rather have Rhea Ripley in there with them, Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, Alexa Bliss for one. I mean, there's so many other people you could put in that spot, not named Charlotte Flair, or someone else in addition to Charlotte. That's what I would want to say. They asked Asuka, I think Heyman asked them, or maybe it was Kayla, I don't remember. One of them asked Asuka, why did you choose Charlotte as your partner? Why were you willing to team with her to win the tag team titles? And then Asuka said something in Japanese. No one knew what the hell she said, so Kayla just assumed that she was happy to team with Charlotte at the pay-per-view. Charlotte does say that she feels the division has grown in her absence. And she was gone for a while. She was gone for 6 months. But she's really looking forward to working with the rest of the division, both on Raw and SmackDown. Obviously, she and Asuka both have history with Sasha, with Bayley. Charlotte has history with Bianca from that brief NXT run earlier this year. So they kind of had that to go off of. And it was a great match. I mean, just on paper, it didn't make a lot of sense. But she's excited to work with everyone else in the division. And then she called her and Asuka the Queens of Tomorrow, which sounds like it's going to be the tag team name of herself and Asuka, which is not a bad name. I don't think they're long for the tag team division, but if they're going to do this tag team thing for now, it's not a bad name. So the last guest they have on the show is the all-new Intercontinental Champion, Big E. And the first thing that Big E does is thank Paul Heyman for his advice from a couple of weeks ago when Heyman kind of fired him up and Big E had nothing to say in response. When Heyman, I think it was only 2 weeks ago, Heyman had said something along the lines of, oh, it's great, you're always about the New Day and you're still associated with them and blah, blah, blah. Why is it, though, when Roman Reigns comes out to the ring, that no one talks about the Shield? And it was a great fucking line that Big E had no response for. He just kind of pondered something off into the distance and then walked off. And so Big E is using that line from Heyman as his motivation to then go on to win the Intercontinental Championship, which is awesome. He says that he has not been Intercontinental Champion in 7 years, which is slightly inaccurate because he won it in 2013, but he lost it in May of 2014. So he was champion for like a solid 6 months from 2013 to 2014. Didn't do a lot with the title, didn't defend it at WrestleMania and all these other pay-per-views, but he was champion for quite some time. Big E makes a point of bringing up how he didn't want to be a case of what if. He didn't want to be one of those guys that didn't live up to his untapped potential. And that's no longer the case. He's currently the Intercontinental Champion, but the real work starts now, he said. This is merely the beginning of the ascent of Big E as a single star. And, Kayla brought up, I think, what was it? Oh, do you think it was a smart decision to break away from the New Day? And he kind of laughs it off and says, well, it really wasn't my decision. It was WWE's decision. Obviously, it wasn't like the New Day said, oh, let's branch off and do our own thing. WWE were the ones that split them up in the draft. But he did say they were making the most of it. He did bring up how they were still a group while Kofi Kingston was the WWE champion. So it's not as if any one of them couldn't have single success and stay together, because that's what they did a year ago. But I think still breaking them up this year in the draft and putting Big E completely on his own, separate of the New Day, was absolutely the right choice. And honestly, maybe Kofi would have had more success post-WWE champion had he done more of that, had he been champion without the New Day around. Because like when Kofi was champion, it was still, oh, it's all about the New Day. But anyway, that's a different debate for a different time. But he said, yeah, the real work begins now. And then Paul Heyman interjects and says, he asks if he's done with his false humility. And he says that he knows exactly where this is going. That Big E's going to love the opportunity to be a singles champion, that he's going to enjoy it so much that eventually he's going to set his sights on even more than the Intercontinental Championship, or rather on the main event of WrestleMania. And that he's going to want that Universal Championship from Roman Reigns at some point. And Heyman even admits that he's looking forward to seeing Roman Reigns versus Big E at some point down the road. And that Big E is well on his way. And that 2021, it's a new year. Yes, it is. That's what he said to Big E, which I thought was a great closing line. So they're planting the seeds between this and what, the mini exchange they had on the show about a week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. They are clearly planting the seeds for Big E and Roman. I fucking love how many seeds. It's like a whole fucking garden over there on SmackDown right now. They're planting the seeds for Roman and Bryan. They're planting the seeds for Roman and Big E. Goldberg is obviously still waiting in the wings somewhere. Jey Uso isn't really following orders completely, so that's an option at some point. I wouldn't do that anytime soon, but that's an option at some point. A lot of people want to get their fucking hands on... even Kevin Owens is still there. Kevin Owens is still in the picture and got screwed out of the championship 2 different times. He's still on Roman Reigns' ass. I love how crowded the Universal Championship picture is right now and how many potential opponents that Roman Reigns has to run through. I love it. So this was a great episode of Talking Smack. Charlotte and Asuka were probably the weakest part, but they were still good. Big E was fantastic, and Daniel Bryan was phenomenal as well. So the show almost always, delivers. Some shows are better than others. But much like SmackDown this week, this was an automatic home run. So check out the December 26, 2020 edition of Talking Smack right now. Be sure to check out all my other Talking Smack reviews down below in the description box. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content, including hitting the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.